Hey, good afternoon. Today is Tuesday, April the 16th, 2024. The time now is 6:40 p.m. So I just want to create an update. This is an update about the current situation in the Middle East, and I'm talking specifically about the tension between Israel and Iran. So I basically started the series after Israel attacked Iran's embassy complex or Iran's consulate in Damascus, Syria. And I have created several updates or several additions to the whole series. And now I'm going to talk about Iran's retaliation and what people are saying out there, and I will provide feedback based on what I see. However, today's program or today's video is going to be different. I am not going to read from the articles, okay? I am just going to speak. There are several points that I want to address. And leading to this program, I have consulted several sources from Al Jazeera to ABC News to the Associated Press to Reuters to the what is it, Tehran Times, and so on. So I have consulted several articles, and I was able to come up with some pointers or points. I am not going to read the article live, so I just want to do a straight up interaction and basically stress my opinion or my perspective. Now, I want to say it off the back, okay? I am not an expert on international relations. I am just a young man, okay? An African with a perspective on international relations, on geopolitics. And I want to contribute to conversations out there about geopolitics or about international relations. I want to engage in conversation pertaining to the various events or topics that impact our global community. And I am from a people and from a community that when it comes to international relations, global politics, our voice have been ignored or sidelined. And being an African, okay, coming from a continent of 1.4 billion people, a continent which is being projected to by mid to century's end will see up to 2.5 to 3 billion people. I do believe we do have a voice and we have to make our voice heard or our voices heard. And this is why I create this channel, The Echoing Voice, looking at geopolitics from the African perspective. Now, I am going to stress as well that I was wrong about a prediction which I made in the past week. However, I have also come to acknowledge the fact that to an extent I was right. So, following Israel's attack on Iran's embassy complex in Damascus, Syria, or Iran's consulate, there was and there are still many out there who continue to beat the drum for war. And since the attack on Iran's consulate facility or embassy facility, they've been basically telling us, predicting that Iran was going to retaliate and that Iran could retaliate with military. I did predict it, or I stated several times that Iran was not going to retaliate, or at least Iran was not going to retaliate in the manner in which many have been predicting that they will retaliate. So in this case, I acknowledge that I am wrong or that I was wrong. So Iran did retaliate. Okay, so I was wrong or I am wrong. However, I still believe to an extent that I was right, that Iran did retaliate but did not go all out. Okay? Because the fact that Iran's embassy complex was attacked, the fact that three top Iranian generals, okay, or military officials were killed by Israel, one would expect Iran to do the same. What is the eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth? You kill my official, you bomb my embassy, I will do the same. So, in that extent, in that regard, I was saying that Iran was not going to try to replicate exactly what Israel did. But I'm also saying that Iran was not going to go all out. Now, Iran did attack or retaliated, and the retaliation that Iran carried out was specifically on military targets, not civilian target. Yet, there are accounts that one civilian, a 7-year-old or so young girl, was hurt, but she is doing fine. And I hope she continues to recover and she continues to do fine. So in this case, again, I am right because Iran could easily have gone all out and just go and attack to take out civilians or whatever. But they did not do that. Perhaps there are many reasons for that. Now, in terms of the barrage of missiles that Iran launched against Israel, it is said about 330 missiles or more were launched at Israel. That is a lot. So in this case, you can also argue that I was wrong. Iran basically attacked massively. Now, there are many pointers that I want to bring to this conversation. One being that Iran informed Turkey, and I do apologize if you're Turkish and that I am messing up the name of your country. I know it used to be called previously Turkey, and it was changed to Turkey, I believe so. And I'm going to do my best to pronounce it. So if you're one of those watching my program, I apologize for messing up the name of your country, your beautiful country. It is said, however, that Iran informed Turkey that it was going to attack or retaliate against Israel, and that there has been talks in the background between Iran and Turkey, and also Iran and the United States through Turkey, that Iran was going to retaliate. And actually, I did read that in the article, okay, which I consulted. And I consulted several articles. So yes, one of the article did stated that Iran did consulted Turkey and also consulted the United States that it was planning a retaliation against Israel. So in this case, it is fascinating. And I find it to be interesting, and it shows me that this is one way, or if not, the way international relations is practiced. Countries may come out on record or in public, okay, officials, and say a bunch of nonsense about one another, about other countries. However, they are actually talking softly behind closed doors, okay? They have to come out boldly and try to save face, okay? So they are going to defend themselves and speak harshly and speak with tough words. But behind closed doors, they are working to alleviate the situation or to decrease the tension. So now, one point that I'm going to make is the fact that Iran informed Turkey. It could be an attempt to lessen the situation, to let an ally know, look, we are going to do this. We don't want to catch you off guard, or that we don't want you to get involved. Maybe take your citizens out. Okay? And it's also a sign of respect. It shows or provide a platform for Turkey. It gives relevance in this case in international relations. Turkey is actually an important country in geopolitics and in the Middle East or in global politics. Okay, and it is also one of the countries, the economies that makes up the G20. So it is a very much a relevant country. But but another thing too that I find to be fascinating, the fact that Iran notified Turkey and the United States, it provides the United States uh, opportunity to move its assets or some of the most vulnerable of its assets out of the way. And also, it provides the United States and allies of Israel to get into position, which seem to have been the case because it is said that 99% of the missiles and drone Iran launched against Israel were downed. Basically, only 1% got through Israeli defense. Now, I don't know how truthful that is, okay? We are talking about international relations and countries, in this case, are trying to save face. So we are not going to get the true story. But the United States, France, Britain, and other countries, including what is Jordan, they were able to position military equipment, U.S. battleship, and so on, and fighter jets, and they were able to intercept the majority of the drones and missiles that Iran launched. But the next point that I want to talk about is basically that the U.S. and Israel both saying that they intercepted the majority of the missile. But it is very interesting because from the papers, the articles which I consulted or read, the United States is said, okay, or is claiming to have single-handedly shot down at least half of the drones and missiles that Iran launched. But also, about two of the articles I consulted, Israel is claiming that it actually by itself shot down 99% of the missiles and drones. So once again, it is fascinating that both Israel and the United States are giving us accounts, okay, individual accounts that says that both of them individually or single-handedly intercepted all or the majority of the drones and the missiles that Iran launched. But also, it is being said that Iran basically launched the missiles and drones strategically, and that what Iran intended to get through the system got through the system. In that, it is alleged that Iran used some decoy missiles and drone, which basically triggered Israel's defense system, okay, the Iron Dome, and Israel's Western allies to basically going after these decoy missiles and drones, allowing the amounts that Iran wanted to get through the defense system to get through the defense system. Now, this is all politics, okay? Many of what we are hearing may not be the case or may be the case. For instance, Israel, in two of the articles I looked at, stated that it single-handedly downed or intercepted 99% of the more than 330 missiles and drones that Iran launched. And the United States is stating that it basically got rid of or intercepted about half. Okay, so if you are talking about 330, missiles and drones. It is saying that the United States got about 150 plus 15. What about 165 of those the United States got rid of? But it is also said, if I can remember correctly, one of the articles stated, okay, the US officials are stating that more than half of the drones and missiles Iran launched basically were dysfunctional. They were dysfunctional in air, okay, in flight. They were dysfunctional. So perhaps that could be true. And if it is true, then it also satisfied the claim, the allegation out there that Iran did use some decoy missiles and drone, and that what it wanted to get through the system got through the system. So I have to stress that. Now, in the United States and in Western papers, Iran's retaliation is being christened as a failure, which I find to be interesting. Many of the papers, many of the news agencies or platforms, there are lots of accounts or articles or statements that this retaliation by Iran was a failure. However, I did not see any viable reason for why Iran's retaliation was a failure. In fact, one thing that I find to be interesting as well is that Iran's retaliation against Israel is being hailed in the West as an attack. So in this case, Iran is the attacker, not the country that retaliates. That's what I'm getting looking at Western papers or listening to Western comments or commentaries out there. So it is being presented as Iran just attacked Israel out of the blue without considering or bringing into the discussion Israel attack on Iran's embassy consulate on April 1st. So it is very interesting. So everyone is saying that this is a failure. Iran's retaliation is a failure. But they are making such statements highlighting the fact that the United States helping Israel, or that Israel single-handedly intercepted and destroyed 99% of the missiles and drones that Iran launched against Israel. So in this case, that is a fair point. But then it can also be contradictory, though, because one, I would not call it a failure on the parts of Iran or a success on the parts of Israel and its Western allies, because one, Iran notified them that, hey, we are going to retaliate, and we will retaliate, we will attack this target. It is basically like you saying, hey, how you doing, sir? I'm coming to rob your house tonight. Can you bring out your guns and shoot me? It is interesting. It's fascinating. So I would not call that a failure on the parts of Iran or a success on the parts of Israel and its allies, because you were told that the attack was going to take place and where it was going to take place. So you was able, in this case, and I'm talking about Israel and its allies, to bring out the French, the British, the Americans, the Jordanians, and others to basically secure the necessary and strategic positions to shoot down the missiles and drones. Another point that I would look at is that the United States told Israel not to retaliate. So that is the sentiment that is expressed in one of the articles that I read, and it is being said all over on the news platforms that the United States did told Israel, if you retaliate, If you attack Iran back, you are on your own. This is the most incredible thing that I've ever heard. I do not think the US will ever say this to Israel. And I find it to be incredible in that it is unbelievable that the United States president would tell Israel, you are on your own. This is something that is kind of like a sci-fi movie. However, this sounds like one, it is a trap, and it sounds like two, it is a statement made by a country that is telling its ally, back up. We do not want to deal with this right now. Now, why could this be a trap? The United States is currently, and its allies are currently fighting the Russians using Ukrainian bodies and Western weapons, Western guns and bombs. The United States and allies wants to go after China next, which I do not think they are going to be successful in many ways. They will be unsuccessful. One, the symbolism of going after China will work in China's favor. Many of the countries in the international relations, in the UN, are countries where China has currently or in the past many projects, infrastructure projects. And China is helping or has been helping these countries in many ways, where the West has been punishing these countries for whatever reasons. It will be a suicide politically, economically, financially for any weaker countries, any country in the United Nations to just go after China. Okay? That is, if the United States and the West start whatever issue against China and it begins to play out in the United Nations, countries going after China will be committing suicide. So in that case, the US and the West will be defeated. Economically, China is much stronger than Russia. Financially, and in terms of infrastructure, in terms of manufacturing, China is the boss right now. Okay? So China has the resources to sustain a manufacturing campaign to maintain a war economy or a war effort, probably more than Russia can do. And even in this case, Russia seems to be doing a lot better. And in terms of the long run, the US going after China, I believe, would be a big problem for the United States, financially, economically, and in terms of stability. Yes, Taiwan, I believe, could be destroyed totally if this situation between China and the United States is allowed to get out of hand. So I do believe by Joe Biden telling Israel, if you attack Iran, you go on your own. It's kind of a way that the United States is saying, hey, please don't. If you do it, we cannot afford to help you because we have other fish to fry. We have other things to go after. But also it is a trap in that. This could be an attempt to fool Iran, make Iran believe that if Iran was to go all out into a war with Israel, it is going to be Israel by itself. I don't think that is the case. I think this could be an attempt to fool Iran. But if Iran and Israel escalate, I do not see the United States ever, in any way, anytime, any moment, letting Israel go alone. The United States will be involved. And so far, we are seeing the hawks in the United States basically egging the U.S. They want blood. They want war. They want Israel to retaliate harder than what Iran did so that this whole thing can be spiraled into another regional conflict. Now, There are those who are saying that the United States is doing this because it doesn't want war in the Middle East. Honestly, I do believe the United States doesn't care. Yet, we could see the increase in oil price. Oh well, the oil tycoon in the United States and in the West, the oil companies will be glad to see a destabilization in the Middle East so that the prices of oil can be jacked up and they are going to be in a better position. It is very interesting the fact that the United States told Israel that Israel should not retaliate, and that if Israel retaliates against Iran, Israel would be doing it on its own. I do not think that is necessarily the case. I do not think ever the United States will ever allow Israel to go by itself. So this is why I do believe this could be a trap to get Israel to retaliate, and then Iran retaliates more, thinking that Israel is on its own, and then the United States and its allies come and ganged up on Iran. So I think that is the case. But also another point, the U.S. is stressing that one reason that it doesn't want Israel to retaliate is that because it does not want a regional war in the Middle East, which I do not think that is the case. I disagree with that. Honestly, I don't think the U.S. care, especially many hawks in the United States. I don't think they care. And a lot of them are in the position to run America, or they are the decision makers. Now, if the Middle East get destabilized, or the Middle East gets into some kind of all-out war crisis, the oil regimes, the oil sellers, I'm talking about the oil companies and individual investors in oil, they're going to make a lot of money because the prices of oil is going to be jacked up. So honestly, I don't think the United States is saying this because of stability in the Middle East in terms of the people. Perhaps it could also be the case because it doesn't want oil price to shoot up. Because right now, it seems as if Joe Biden is backtracking in lots of things that he had been doing previously. Because this year is an election year, and it's looking like he might lose this election. I do not want to predict, because the last time I did predict that Trump was going to lose and he won. I did. I do think something happened, but I do believe Trump so far has a better chance of winning this election coming November, because Joe Biden managed to piss off a lot of Democrats, especially many who are young people, and the situation in Ukraine. So Joe Biden is in a very terrible situation. And Trump, even though Trump is going through this trial, I don't know, man, but it seems like he's going to come out of it. And if he does, he has a better chance to win this election. And if Trump win 2024 election, I do believe he is coming into the presidency with a vengeance. And the possibility that what is currently happening to Trump, he is going to replicate it against his enemies in the Democratic Party, those who are liberal, is something that I do believe is possible. And it's a high possibility. But anyway, so yes, perhaps the United States and Joe Biden doesn't want an escalation because of fear that the prices of oil may increase. But in terms of the people, I don't think the hawks who run America care about the stability of the Middle East in terms of the peace and stability of the people. They do not care. But I do believe that they are thinking that if the Middle East is destabilized, if we get into a war, an all-out war, if Israel get into an all-out war with Iran, the United States has to devote all of its time and effort and energy into fighting Iran. If that being the case, Looking at the terrain of Iran, which is the same as Afghanistan, looking at the fact that Iran is much more stronger than Afghanistan was, and the United States being bogged down in Afghanistan for 20 years, 2 decades, it is easy to speculate that the United States is going to be bogged down in Iran, possibly for another 60 years, 40, 60 years. Basically, I'm saying the United States being bogged down in Iran could triple, okay, double and triple its time in Afghanistan. However, the population in Iran is much different than Afghanistan. You have middle class, you have different class of people, you have the religious, deeply religious, you have those who are not deeply religious, you have those who are economically liberal, economic conservative, economically Western thinking. So perhaps the United States being in a war with Iran cannot be bad as it could be if Iran's population being that of Afghanistan, okay, prior to and during the war from 2001. So I just want to stress that there. But I never ever thought of a time when the United States doesn't want to fight a country that it believes is not as strong as it is. So they are saying that Iran's retaliation against Israel is a failure and that Iran is exposed. But then why is the United States talking about not escalating in the Middle East? Why is the United States telling Israel not to retaliate if Iran is that weak, if Iran attack is a failure? Honestly, I think that is not the case. I think Iran's retaliation against Israel did expose something. It shows something about the United States and the West and Israel. One being that these missiles, the fact that they traveled that long and into Israel or reaching Israel's border, it shows a level of sophistication that the Iranian have. The fact that it took the United States, Israel, France, and the United Kingdom, okay, the UK and others, to position their fleets and their planes, fighter jet, to shut down these missiles and drones, it doesn't look well for the United States, for the West, or for Israel, because it kind of shows like what happening in Ukraine, where all of them are fighting Russia using Ukrainian bodies. But in this case, they are fighting Iran or defending Israel against Iran, all of them together. It shows an element of many against one, and it is being seen around the world in a very much favorable light for Iran. And I don't know, man. They are saying Iran's retaliation is a failure, but it doesn't seem to be a failure on Iran's part or a success on the United States, Israel, and the Western part. But now, one more thing that I need to stress is the money. So one of the articles which I read state that Israel spent over 1 billion defending itself against Iran. Now, one article states Israel spent over $550 million. One article states Israel spent $1 billion. And another article stated that Israel spends over $1 billion. However, lots of the articles I looked through or that I peeped through, and this one, which I took the time and read it fully, states that Israel spent over $1 billion, okay, defending itself against Iran. And that Iran, the missiles and drones it launched against Israel, Iran spent few millions. If you calculate it, this is actually a victory for Iran. And I'm not using this word to be disrespectful. This is a war going on. This is people's lives we are talking about. This is not a game. But if we put it in a context of the advantage, Iran has the advantage because it managed to launch missiles and drones worth few millions, and it took Israel over 1 billion to defend itself. If this was to continue into an all-out war, and if Iran has the capability to sustain such attack, a few hundred missiles and drones, and it takes Israel over 1 billion each time to defend itself, financially, this doesn't look good for Israel or the United States. However, on the U.S. side, the U.S. can print money, okay? But whether we are talking about actually printing money or using resources, okay, such as your gold, your oil, or whatever, to sustain the war effort, for Israel spending over $1 billion to protect itself against Iran does not sit well with me. It doesn't look as if the United States or Israel, in this case, were victorious. But it's very interesting. So I am going to end by reading the description to this program, which I do believe can also serve as a conclusion. I am going to start with a couple of questions. Question 1. Did Iran inform Turkey in advance of its retaliation or its attempt to retaliate against Israel? 2. Did Iran inform Israel of its intention to attack and the target to attack? 3. Were these missiles and drones launched from Iranian territory? 4. Why did Iran decide to hit military targets and not civilians? Was this also a PR exercise to maintain international support? I am going to continue with more questions and comment. 1. If this retaliation was a failure, then it means Iran is a failure, and it is an incompetent country with a weak military. But then, why did the United States tell Israel not to retaliate? I have never known a United States that does not want to go to war against any weak enemy. 2. Interestingly, the U.S. is gearing up for war against mighty China, but not against Iran, which is a failure. The truth is that I believe Iran's retaliation demonstrated or demonstrates something very significant. 3. Perhaps the U.S. does not want to be bogged down in a war with Iran, a much more powerful country with a terrain similar to that of Afghanistan. 4. The U.S. commanded a multinational operation and shot down most of Iran's missiles and drones. Where was the Iron Dome? This does not look good for Israel. It sells the idea that Israel and the Iron Dome are not as sophisticated as propagated. Yet, with all fairness, we can speculate that the Iron Dome did not have the opportunity to prove itself because Israel's allies intercepted the majority of the missiles and drones before they reached their target. 5. This was a PR exercise to shield Israel from embarrassment. It would have looked bad had all of the drones and missiles reached their targets, causing destruction. 6. It cost Israel over $1 billion to intercept Iran's drones and missiles, which does not look good. The answers to these questions, to an extent, can be substantiated If so, this was a clear example of international relations at its finest, a country's show of force, a message that it also has capability. Also, Israel's interception of the missiles and drones was not a successful operation, and it does not in any way prove the IDF's advancement. You are given a warning of an attack and the target, which is a military base. It provides you with time to remove all valuables and position your defense mechanism. This also demonstrates that Iran was not trying to hit civilian targets. I speculate that both countries talked in the background and agreed to a limited retaliation as a show of force and an attempt to save face in international relations. So, my friends, this is it. And thank you very much for watching. Now, I am not an expert and I do not proclaim to be an expert. As I said earlier, I am just someone with a perspective or with perspectives on international relations. I want to engage in discussions about topics and events that impact our global community. I want to share my opinion. Please tell me what you think. Tell me what I get wrong. Tell me what I am missing. Tell me what and how I can get better on. Once again, thank you very much for watching The Echoing Voice. Peace.